Welcome to the Impact Maker's Journey from Passion to Profits, the podcast showcasing heart-centered coaches, experts, and energy healers who are on a mission to change lives and create meaningful success doing what they love. I'm your host, Wendy Vaughan, business success coach and founder of Impact Maker Coaching. And I've got to be honest, the path from passion to profits is rarely easy, but it's always filled with growth, clarity, and surprising rewards. Now, each week I sit down with inspiring impact makers who have turned their knowledge and wisdom into thriving businesses that are making a meaningful difference for others. I will explore their personal and professional journeys, how they found their calling, and how they continue to stay aligned with their passion along the way. So if you're here to expand your vision about what's possible for yourself, you're in the right place. So join me as we discover the positive ripple effects created by today's guest. All right. Hi there, everyone. I have as my guest today, Carla Wainwright. Now, Carla is a holistic wellness coach and midlife alchemist who works primarily with women who are navigating midlife shifts in their health, their hormones, their identity, their relationships, and a sense of purpose. So welcome, Carla. I am so excited to have you as my guest today.
Thank you so much, Wendy. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to discovering more about your journey as an entrepreneur, as well as this great expertise that you have. So curiously, and I should phrase it this way because, every entrepreneur's journey is unique, right? Because we all have different lives, different opportunities that cause us to go on this path. And typically, the journey of an entrepreneur includes lots of those opportunities for personal growth. Do you agree?
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Yeah. It's like all of a sudden we realize, I guess I'd better fix this because it's not serving me. So, um, and it's all good, but sometimes it can be frustrating or create those levels of like, oh my gosh, now why did I decide to do this? But let me ask you, do you feel like you're the same person now as you were when you started out as an expert on this path?
Oh, no. I think that it would be rare to be the
Yeah,
same person as we move through any path.
yeah.
And probably like a lot of your listeners and other guests you've had, my path definitely hasn't been linear either. And so where I started from is certainly not where I am now. And there
Yeah.
have been so many lessons along the way. And as you said, in the beginning that there's it's a healing path in our this journey, and actually the work that I do now has really been inspired by my own healing journey. I started my life as a wildlife biologist. That's
Oh,
what I
wow.
did, working, yeah, studying endangered species out in the wilds, and then really embarked on my own transformational journey to heal some trauma that I'd experienced, and that just really made me take a pivot. And in that exploration, I really found that this was really my passion, and
Mm.
so that's really when the entrepreneurial spirit really got lit on fire for me and moved me forward.
Right. Wow, that is an interesting pivot. But
Hmm.
like I mentioned, all paths are unique, but it's like 2020 hindsight. It's like, well, of course, this is where I ended up because of this and this and this and this. And it's, equipped me beautifully for being who I am now. So take us back just a little bit in terms of a date stamp. So when did you make that pivot and, step into being that holistic wellness coach?
Sure. So, I mean, I think as I was living a bit of a dual life, so sort of the early on in the 2000s, I was still working, doing consulting work as a biologist, but at the same time, I opened a yoga studio and I did that in the evenings. I kind
Wow.
of, yeah, I did multiple things at once. And then I studied to become a homeopath and was working with women and their own healing. And so I did a lot of that kind of back and forth, and
Yeah.
then, really ended up needing a choice point. pretty
Yeah,
much
because
after
there's like
my
only so much you could juggle at one
I
time.
know. And then I had three children, and then it was
Oh
like,
my
okay, I
gosh.
got something something needs
There's
to
this,
give here.
yeah, there's this thing called bandwidth, Carla.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully, yes, I know. That's the thing, when you're like those highly driven A-type personalities who want to do it
hmm
all. But I
Well,
would
and
say
like you
that
said, passionate about, you started
yes.
becoming really, it sounds like, um, excited about
Mhm.
the new discoveries that you are making for yourself and then carrying that forward. So, sure, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I would say after the birth of my twin daughters, then I really decided the biology life was not for me, and that yeah, I was really going to pursue my passion in in things to do with holistic healing, and I never have looked back since then. That has just always felt like the right choice, and I felt for me, purpose life's purpose is really one of my North Stars and
Mhm.
feeling aligned to that purpose. And although I always will have a deep love and profound connection to nature and the environment, I feel like in my life as a holistic wellness coach, as someone in service to women and supporting them, I really feel like I'm serving my purpose. I feel that really deeply. And so that is continues to be something that just is always inspiring to me to make those changes and to really support women on that journey.
Right. Yeah, that constant North Star, like you said, I love that analogy. So, um, just curiously, in 2020 hindsight, which is always our best vision, right? What would you have done differently to build your coaching practice faster? Because it was a pivot, and from what I'm gathering, you went from being an employee to launching your own business. Is there anything that you would have done differently that maybe would have moved things forward faster?
It's a good question. I think it comes back a little bit to the trying to do too many things at once.
Mm,
And that really diffuses your energy and your focus. And I think, being self employed has always been really, really wonderful. But I would say that when my children were really little and I was trying to do it all, that was really difficult. And I feel like with that 2020 hindsight, perhaps streamlining things a little more and perhaps putting a big dose of patience in there. Um,
it's not
so
always easy, especially for a type A person.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I don't know, it may have, in some respects, maybe the timeline in terms of getting, where I would have wanted to with my business might have been the same, but I think the journey would have been easier. I would have experienced less stress. I probably would have felt, yeah, just a little bit more in alignment with the things I was doing rather than trying to kind of check off all the boxes and do it all at once.
And it's difficult to have that discernment in that moment, though, as to what is the important thing to do. So,
Yeah,
because it
absolutely.
is it's a new path. So, and it's very complex. So let's talk a little bit more about these women that you serve. So, I know that your specialty is working with women that are experiencing that midlife transition, right?
Mhm.
So, curiously, what's a common, let's say, false belief that they have that keeps them stuck in their lives thinking that, oh well, here I am, things are just, this is the way it is.
Well, I would certainly say that one of the most common misbeliefs is that midlife and beyond is a decline, and that is basically how the rest of your life is going to unfold. Your best years are behind you,
Right.
and everything's going to go downhill from there. And nothing is further from the truth, but that narrative is very much reinforced by culture and society. We are conditioned to think that a woman after 50 it just isn't seen, just isn't valued in the same way.
Mhm.
And we really have to push back against that narrative because when we have that kind of cultural conditioning over years and years and years, even if we want it to be different, there's a lot of subconscious mindset around that. And
Right.
so,
Yeah, it's anchored
really
in.
shifting that.
It's steeped in early on. We're just
Yeah.
when we're little and we hear comments or whatever. We see things portrayed a certain way on the media or those messages coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there is that reinforcement, and that takes hold pretty firmly within the subconscious. And I
Absolutely.
think that when we have a belief that, you know, our best years are behind us or that everything is a decline, that can kind of frame our day-to-day choices, where we're not actually envisioning ourselves as becoming more powerful, more capable, wiser, all of the wonderful things that really do happen to us. We have to really be open to receiving those and making that mindset shift.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love just hearing you talk about it being almost an illusion, right? It's like a false, it's like, no, 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 that's not really how it is. So just, what's going on for these women when it comes to their lives that, and obviously everybody's a little bit different. This might be have different iterations, but what's a common thing that happens that prompts these women to say, oh, kind of like wake up and say, no, no, this isn't, this can't be it. Are there examples that you can give us where, they step out of buying into those societal norms or the beliefs that have maybe, seemed to be real?
I think sometimes it may even just start with not even thinking it through in that exact, linear fashion. Often I think when, women come to see me, they're dealing with a variety of symptoms that just feel in many ways insurmountable. So it's really hard for them to perhaps envision stepping into something that's even more, powerful than when they are now. But
Mm,
once they begin to understand the physiology, what's happening in their body, they begin to attune into the inner wisdom that every single woman has within her, then she begins to see the potential, right? Because the story that the story around the brain fog, perhaps like the weight gain, the mood swings, the lack of clarity, all of that, when that begins to diminish, then she begins to be really feel like the energy of potential begins to come in from there.
mhm.
That's it. There are some women who are like, you know what, this is BS. I'm not going to just accept what society tells me, and I want something different. So there are those women as well who
Yeah,
really
just
have a
just
vision and they want to reach it.
kind of wake up to the fact, wait a second, there's potentially another, 40 years of my life left, at least. This can't be as good as it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so those are the women that um I'm assuming it's happening more and more, let's hope. But so just, if you could maybe share with us a story of a woman that has come to you and what her life looked like, and just give us a real life story here in terms of what the shift was.
Sure. So there's a woman I'm currently working with right now who she's a principal and has a very intense job managing, of course, all of her staff, the administration, and then, of course, all of the children at the school. And she's extremely dedicated and just really passionate about her job. And one of the things, she really likes to go that extra mile. What she had been noticing in the last few years is her capacity was completely diminishing. So, she'd put in these full days, but she would come home and she'd be completely spent. She had no time left for her husband. And, even just the relationship with her adult children was beginning to change. She was struggling through the day with her energy. And one of the biggest things, which a lot of women really deal with, is the cognitive shifts that happen in midlife. So, as hormones change, we lose some of the neuroprotective benefits of estrogen in particular. And so we can start to have, really our minds are foggy and we have a hard time finishing a sentence or finding that thought. And so she was really feeling, excuse me, in both her professional life that her capacity was diminishing when she really felt like, here I'm at the pinnacle of my career. I should really be, on my A game. And then her home life was incredibly suffering as well. So we really had to unpack all of that and look at, first of all, understanding what was happening in her physiology and her biology and starting to make shifts so she could regain her clarity, which she absolutely did, her energy, improve her relationship at home,
Mhm.
have the capacity at work, excuse me, my voice, at work and at home. Um, all of which is absolutely possible. And I think this is the case for a lot of professional women, the feeling like they're losing themselves when they really want to be at the peak of their careers and functioning 100%.
Right. Yeah, it can really steal your confidence if those things start to happen, in terms of just that cognitive clarity and energy and all that kind of thing. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's something that actually, when I speak with professional women, a lot of women feel a lot of shame and embarrassment about that
Hmm.
because they
Sure.
are so capable. And when they feel like that capacity is beginning to slip, it's not something that they want to admit to, right? And
Right.
there's a lot of shame around that, which I feel an enormous amount of compassion, and I wish that women better understood what was happening so that they didn't feel like they needed to blame themselves or something is wrong
Right.
with me. No, no,
Yeah. Well,
no.
that's a common thing for women, right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's got to be me. It's all my, I'm just like, blah, 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 you know?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
after working with you, what's life like? What are some of those shifts that they now experience after working with you?
So I think one of the biggest shifts comes back to what you were asking me previously. It's like, what does a woman want for her older years, right? And so she can really envision herself stepping into the wisest, most potent version of herself.
Mm.
And she feels that she has, not only does she have the vision of that and the clarity of that, but she has the capacity for that. She has the energy, she has the stamina, she has the mental fortitude, all of those different pieces. And she feels great in her body, right?
Wow.
She just
Wow.
feels really good.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. That's so exciting. Yeah, I love that. So what are some things that women can do to start feeling better in their bodies?
So, yes, for the first thing is to actually just start to listen to your body. So, we are so conditioned to override the signals that our bodies give us. And so to really listen, like, what does my body need? Women need more rest. Prioritizing sleep is really important. Another one that can be really powerful and seems like it's, you know, so simple is to just spend more time outside. Getting natural light in your eyes is a massive regulator for the entire endocrine system and our nervous system. We produce serotonin when we get light in the eyes, which is like the feeling happy in our lives. And so, more time outside because so many of us spend too much time sitting and not enough time outside. Yeah, I know. And then the other thing that I work on with women, which I think is so important, is around pleasure and finding ways to feel good through your day. So, whether that is in connection with somebody, whether that is eating something and really savoring that food, listening to music that really lights you up, all of the things connected to the senses. Because again, when we do that, it has a huge physiological effect. We produce oxytocin, which is a buffer to cortisol. I mean, there's so many things I could talk about, but these
Mm-hmm.
are the types of things that everyone can do. They do not take more time in your day. You just have to focus your
Yeah,
attention to them, and they
right.
can really make a big difference.
Be intentional about just factoring in a few easy things throughout the day
Yeah,
that make that huge
exactly.
impact. Yeah, I love that.
Exactly.
And you're obviously very passionate about doing this work, which is refreshing to me because what I've seen as a business coach over the past, now it's been about 8 years of working in this space, is that frequently the frustrations and challenges of building a business, plus inconsistent results and, just doing things that aren't totally coming naturally, seem to dampen that original passion. But I know for a fact that with the right support and strategy, every coach can have that thriving, passion driven business. But I'm just curious, and you probably walk your talk, so I'll just wait for you to answer this. But what's your secret for keeping that passion refueled for serving these women in this transitional state in their lives? Because let's face it, when your clients come to you, they're in a pretty low, energy level. And so, it takes some self nurture to keep our batteries charged, right? So can you share a little bit about what your secret is for keeping your passion so vibrant?
Yes, so I definitely walk my talk.
I figured
I
that.
have I do a lot of different things for myself to, health is pretty important to me. I mean, it's what I do for a living, but I also I really cherish this body, and I want to take the best care of it that I possibly can. And so what I often say to myself is my future self is thanking me. And I
Mm,
envision my, 80 or 90-year-old self, and she's thanking me for the decisions that I'm making today.
mm,
So if I'm making a choice between one thing that's not so great and the other thing that's a lot better, she's thanking me for making the choice that's a lot better.
I love
She's
that. Yeah.
also thanking me for supporting women so that they can have the same journey as me. Like,
Mhm.
I hear you about the business thing. Believe me, I have had many business frustrations and challenges and difficulties throughout my entrepreneurial life. But when I future cast myself to the wise elder version of me, in her 80s or 90s, she's not going to remember, whatever that business failure was on a March March of 2026 or whatever it
Right.
was. She's going to remember the impact that I made
Mhm.
with women and the women I supported, so that their future selves are also thanking them. So I really try to envision her, and it's like, what would she be telling me?
Mhm.
And
I
and
love that.
that is a huge motivator for me.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. Very wise. I love that. That does really bring things into a bigger perspective. And it kind of reminds me of one of the things I learned from one of my mentors early in my entrepreneurial career, and that's Mark Victor Hansen, who's the co-author for the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. And although he wasn't a direct mentor, I was in a mastermind with he and Bob Proctor called the 3% Club. And we got the opportunity to meet with Mark and Bob 4 times a year, and just being in their space, their orb, their energy was uplifting right there. But the visionary and just seeing that impact and seeing the difference that you can make. One of the things that he taught me, and probably 10,000 other people, was he said, Wendy, you just need to have and what he called a big, hairy, audacious goal, something that fuels your passion and helps you to look over all these little bitty barriers. And so ever since then, I've had various iterations of what he calls a BHAG, right? And as currently as a business coach, my vision is to raise consciousness within humanity. Those
Mm.
people waking up, which is why I'm passionate about serving coaches like yourselves, because of exactly what you explained. The ripple effect, the future selves looking back and saying, look at all these women whose lives have impacted so many others beyond themselves being happier, healthier, more successful. And so that ripple effect is what fuels my passion, because I believe that the heart-centered work that you do has infinite ripple effects. And the more and more people that wake up to what they truly can experience instead of buying into the illusion, right? That they can create that happiness and that joy and abundance for themselves, regardless of whether they're 40, 50, 60, 70, those are beyond the midlife years, but you know what I mean, it's what is making the world a better place. So I'm going to put you on the spotlight here, Carla. Do you have like Mark Victor Hansen says, a big audacious goal or a vision for yourself or your business?
Hmm. Uh, yes. So, you know, ha, my vision is to create, to be an instrumental part of the change and shift towards really valuing women in midlife and beyond.
Mm.
And, as adults, we live as women more than 40% of our lives postmenopausally. And there is so much collective wisdom and power and insight and support into the elevation of consciousness that is available, that it's like an untapped resource. That I just think that we are accessing just the tiniest fraction of the potential of what that could be. So my big goal is to be really instrumental in moving the needle and allowing women to have a voice and to step most as fully as possible into their
Mhm.
power.
Yes. Oh, I just got goosebumps. I love that vision. Yes. And it truly is, it's not just a paradigm shift. I mean, like you said, mindset is where it begins. And then also supporting our bodies biologically, right? Through the science of it, and all of that and the beautiful work that you do. So now I understand that you have a gift for our listeners. Is that correct?
I do. I do.
Can
I
you tell
have,
us a little bit about that?
yes, it's called the Vibrancy Guide. And this is a very practical resource. It has 5 of my most doable, actionable, and effective steps for women 40 plus who just want to feel more energized, more balanced, and really great in their bodies right away. You can get it at vibrancyreset.com. That's also where you can
Okay,
find me. And yeah, I
perfect.
encourage you to download the Vibrancy Guide. I promise you that you will feel amazing once you start to implement those steps.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with our listeners. And be sure to look in the show notes, everyone, and you'll find the link to grab Carla's gift. So, well, Carla, I just want to thank you so much for being a guest on my show and for sharing your journey, and truly expanding our view of the type of happiness and life that really is possible for women as they enter into that midlife phase and chapter. And it really can be and is the best chapter going forward. So thank you so much. I appreciate you and the work that you do.
Thank you, Wendy. I've really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.
All right. Well, the real life transformations facilitated by experts like my guest today are truly priceless. I mean, happiness, joy, peace, love, right? These are all what each of us ultimately strives for in life. But becoming a sought after and well paid coach or energy healer is often challenging, overwhelming, and frustrating. So, if you're a heart centered coach, expert, or energy healer who's striving for more ease, flow, and abundance, well, I've created a special gift just for you. So, check out the show notes. All right, well, this is Wendy Vaughan signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in, and be sure to join me for my next episode where we'll be inspired by yet another impact maker's journey.